Hi, everybody. Happy Wellness Wednesday. So, I took that term from Susan Holt, who you're going to hear from a little bit later today. We have a really exciting Wednesday for you today, a really exciting Wellness Wednesday. We are going to be focusing on, as we have in the past 7 webinars, woohoo to all of us. This is our 8th one, and thank you to Brian Bishop for all the support, and Stacy Van Bergen and everyone else. So today we're going to be talking about ways to support the wellness of your organization. And that doesn't necessarily even mean with WRAP, just wellness in general. And then developing personal responsibility for your wellness. What does that look like? What do you want it to look like? But how we can find different ways to take personal accountability. So the exciting thing is that as we've gone further along, Brian and I are trying new things with he does the technology part of it, technological? What would you say that?
Yeah, the tech.
The tech part of this stuff. And so we're gonna have a couple guests today, and which we have had one. We had Rita Mejia before, and two, and Diane Prosser. So we're going to have Matthew Federici. He gave us a message last time about hope and gave a shout out to Fresno County. And today he's just going to be giving a little bit about what WRAP means to him and how in taking care of his wellness that leads to helping the organization. And then I've asked Matthew Pritchard to speak about his journey. I'm sorry, did I say Matthew? Michael Pritchard. We have 2 M's today. Michael Pritchard. And he's going to be speaking about his journey and how we can incorporate that into the whole taking personal accountability for your wellness and sharing some really neat stuff. So both of these guests are going to be virtual. So please bear with us as we try to navigate this today. We're going to be having Matthew Federici come in from a totally different state, and he's going to be joining in, and then you're going to see me put some headphones on. And then we're going to hear a message from Susan Holt, our Assistant Deputy Director, and then we're going to be hearing from Michael Pritchard. So while we have a few minutes before Matthew joins in, so ways to support the wellness of your organization. So let's give that a thought for a second. How are you? Today, this Wednesday, in this moment, I invite you to check in with yourself. How are you feeling? How's your body feeling? How is your mind feeling? Wellness is all encompassing of all those areas, right? Mind, body, soul. And I don't know about you guys, but we keep getting all this news, right, about COVID and updates, and the news that I've seen, although I try not to be stuck to the television, hasn't been that great. So as I've said in other webinars, acknowledge your feelings. That's really important. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have more than one emotion and be grateful for your job and at the same time be a little angry or afraid. But I think the important part is acknowledging those feelings and not ignoring them, but going back, checking in with yourself. And many of you messaged me privately or reached out last time and said you really liked that about checking in with yourself. What that looked like, what that means for you, and remembering to do that, right? We tend to check in with other people, but it's really important that we check in with ourselves. So given the part about the supporting or the wellness of our organization, so let's think about that for a second, right? I'm a true believer of the trickle-down effect, and if our director and up here are happy and are exuding wellness, then I truly believe it just, for lack of a better phrase, the fish rots from the head. So I feel blessed that we have Dewan, who is really big on wellness, and Susan, and some supervisors and DMs, or all, I don't know. So it's really awesome. So when we are well, we in reality are just this one big team, right, that can support each other. And that's what I aspire to, is to be a part of that wellness solution personally. Is if I'm well and if I'm exuding wellness and I'm able to say, maybe I don't feel well today, and it has nothing to do with my coworkers, it has nothing to do with my environment. Maybe I can chill out a bit and say, I'll give you an example that I've used before. Say an email, and you want to respond in a crass manner, or, wait 24 hours, wait 4 hours, wait however long you decide, and see how you feel later about it. The important thing, I think, is just the awareness that we have of our own wellness. And I think all too often we're trained to be aware of everybody else's wellness and what to do when everybody else is not okay, or to make people better, when what happens is we'll end up neglecting ourselves. Physician, heal thyself. I love that saying, which I don't have some of my cute little sayings today. And I'm going to check really quickly, okay, and see if we have...
I don't see him on there. You may need to text him and ask him to call in.
So what I'm going to do right now while we're waiting... I'm sorry?
Let everybody know, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. So what I'm going to do right now, what I just did was texted Matthew. So again, please bear with us. I know that you will, because you're so supportive, all of you. The emails and the messages I get, and we have such a supportive crowd in Fresno. Oh, okay, so Ashley, so Matthew is on. I'm going to now put on my headphones. Hello, Matthew.
Hi.
Hi there. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great, thank you. So, okay, we were waiting for you. So everybody, this is Matthew Federici, who has just joined us, and I want to make sure I get his title right. Executive Director of the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery. Matthew, you're not able to see my screen, are you?
No.
Okay, but I did send you the check-in, so.
Can you make that window bigger?
So, which one? The one of Matthew? Okay. So Matthew and I are going to show you guys, as we begin, a check-in that we do for RAP. I've said before, I'm involved in a couple of them. California, try to participate in the one that's the world one as much as I can. So we're just going to give you an example of the checking in, okay? And how you can incorporate this into your meetings. You can incorporate it into even your Wellness Wednesdays with friends or family. So you want to get started on the check-in, Matthew, and I'll give you the opportunity to say whatever you'd like.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do a check-in, Baltimore. Thank you. And so I'll say my wellness is doing progressively better today, and I think one of the things, and I don't know if we'll have an opportunity to expand on it more today in the context of the topic you have, but is, the way I've worked the 5 key concepts, hope, personal responsibility, education, self-advocacy, and support, and wellness tools has really shifted a lot. And we always talk about RAP is a process, it's not a thing. And because of the pandemic, it has really accelerated the need to embrace that concept. So in particular, in terms of like being a part of a team or an organization, I enacted those 5 key concepts by bringing my team together just before I hopped on this call. And instead of really continuing to shoulder some of the complex issues that arise when you run an organization that impacts a community, was to really make sure that to make sure I really hear the perspectives, right? So self-advocate for what I need, ask for the support, but also open up the space where everyone's doing that. That has, coming off of that, has helped lift enormously some heaviness to my day-to-day, which seems to run to, maybe other people can relate to day-to-days running together, but there's this whole other undertow that I think other people are sharing, which is just the predictable unpredictableness, the uncertainty of the uncertainty, which is always there. But not only are people waking up each day, navigating a new type of daily way of approaching their work, but we're also carrying this lingering question of what's next or where things are going. And for me, it's just really important to more embrace that concept of hope in that process, to like really intentionally look at my perspectives and behaviors as it pertains to keeping hope alive. It's a lot easier when things are predictably going the way you anticipate and the plans that you put in place fall in line with that to have hope. But when all of that becomes a little bit more uncertain, it does require it requires effort to keep hope going. But without that, I'm not operating on, if I'm not operating on hope, then I'm not really operating in a place heading towards my wellness. I'm actually operating in a place that's just kind of reactive. So,
good point.
For me today, it's just really anchoring myself in my actual wellness tools that keep me based in hope. And as we talked about before, I joined on today. Thankfully, that mutuality, I asked for the support from you that we have a dialogue, because talking into the void of the technology, which is what a lot of these webinars are,
yes,
is just not really embodying those key concepts and my RAP in my life, because it's the connection with people and the mutuality that that is the basis of my wellness. So I'm really getting a lot of that today, and that is providing me the support and the structure to be well. So I'm doing well. I'm on the East Coast, so I'm at that space that you will be in a couple hours, where you've got like maybe 2 hours left of your workday and you'll be winding down. So
that's right. Yes.
Happy to be doing that with you. So thank you for the invitation to be here at Baltimore.
Thank you, Matthew. So Matthew, something, and one of the reasons why I thought you would be great, and I always think you're great, is the consistency with your wellness message. And you're so right about the uncertainty of the predictability of the uncertainty. How did you say that?
Well, things are very predictably unpredictable now.
Predictably unpredictable. Yes, I love that. And I do agree with you too, as well as about the technology. I was saying during the check-in last week that I'm a huge believer of oxytocin. The chemical we get from touching, from hugging, and right now there's just not a lot of that. And this is what we're getting right now, is this kind of a connection. So yes, thank you for being live, and I am glad that it's interactive. So I know on the check-in that I had asked which one of the 5 key recovery concepts, and I'm going to say right now that I am pulling them all out: the hope, personal responsibility, self-advocacy, support, education, lots of changes going on, and not necessarily in a comfortable way. And I spoke about this during the last webinar, the importance to be able to acknowledge that you can have more than one feeling or emotion at one time. For instance, this is a good change, however, it's still change, of routine but what I'm grateful for and what gives me hope is the being self-aware. Being self-aware of, okay, I need to put these things in place, having my support system, and even my support system saying, today, do you need me to remind you to slow down later? That gives me hope. That gives me hope. But I do agree with you that during these uncertain times, it does feel like it takes a little extra effort, to feel that hope that's normally there. Fresno's become a hot spot for COVID, and so I've been trying to stay off the news, but even that's difficult, not being, concerned and stuff. I'm not sure about where you guys are at, Matthew. Are you guys dealing with that right now, the whole COVID scare? Are you guys a hot spot?
I wouldn't say we're a hotspot, but yeah, I mean, it's something that we monitor daily in this house with 2 children and school, and where, we're certainly not in first place in the world, but we go through spikes where there's increases, I would say relative to our state, where we're pretty high up in terms of opportunity for exposure.
Right. Okay. Well, I know you had shared something with me that I thought was really important.
Philadelphia, which is pretty.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, which is pretty high up there. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge those types of things, that they can be troubling, and in a time like this, what wellness tools am I going to pull out this evening, that include being at home or going for a drive or whatever, slowing down. And again, we know that's different for everybody, what wellness tools they're going to do. I guess, but for me, I would say the most that I'm really pulling out right now is the personal responsibility. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, I am responsible for slowing myself down, for making sure I take a nice calming bath, or because at the end of the day, I feel I have no one else to blame but myself, if I don't do those things. So yeah, so for you guys that are watching right now, so what Matthew and I are showing you guys in real time is an example of just a check-in of how are you doing, getting a sense to know each other, where we're at. Matthew and I could talk tomorrow and both be at a 10, or both be at a 2, or one be at a 10 and one be at a 2. But this is why it's good for you to see that check-ins can be really important and be very validating. But yeah, I would say for me, the personal responsibility right now, definitely, and Matthew, you use the word intent a lot, which I'm not sure if you coined the term, but I've definitely taken that from learning from you, of intentionally, being aware of my wellness tools later, or intentionally slowing down later. Is that something you learned somewhere, the intentionally, the intent?
Well, yeah, I think, not just, RAP itself, but when I think about the work of recovering wellness in my life, it it really starts with, and I think the reason why I like the process and the values that we do in RAP, which is why I've chosen to work at the Copeland Center and continue the work that has come out of there, is that, you know, the big turning point for me in my life was beginning to be reflective enough, and really look at the internal capacity that I have to make some changes and not react to the world around me, but respond and, you know, kind of be in the driver's seat of those responses. And part of that is to stop and think about, you know, before, you know, kind of just observing what's coming up for me, where is that coming from, and do I really want to be operating from what's coming up inside of me?
Right.
You know, I mean, at a very young age, thankfully in my life, I began more out of a mental health crisis, but that to me, it was a necessary act, and I'm kind of glad that I had my mental health crisis at a time that early enough in my life that I've been doing that for a while, versus I could see that I may have gone many years, especially if I was enabled or supported by my environment, to continue to just keep reacting day in and day out, doing what I was doing just because it's what I was doing and what was given to me.
Right.
I could see I could go a very long time unwell, maybe not like sick, but I could go a very long time in my life into adulthood not being well,
Right.
and never having found that self-efficacy to be in control of, you know, when things break down, of wait, I can take a step back here and really reevaluate. And that includes like reevaluating beliefs that I hold about. I mean, a lot of times the reactions that I would have to the world around me were created by beliefs I had about what I was seeing in the world. Mm-hmm. And recognizing that those beliefs were inherited,
yes,
from other people and the world around me, and they were not supporting me to be well. So when I say intentional, you know, like, that's all the work that's involved in being intentional, is just really being reflective, self-evaluative, and in many ways deconstructing my view and beliefs about things, and then selecting what I'm going to move forward with. Because, you know, none of us have come into this world with a worldview that we chose. We all start off with one that we've inherited, and I think as a white male in a leadership role right now, that's really critically important to recognize that with a lot of the civil and racial issues that are going on, which are, you know, we'll talk about the pandemic, but talk about that as well.
Yeah.
You know, that intentionality and recognizing, not only when it comes to my mental health, what are the beliefs and views I've held about it, but also, you know, my place in the world and other people's place in the world, and some of the things that I may think or say or have done, and where did they come from. You know, it's a lot of work to undo, to no individual's fault, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
That's a really good point, Matthew, about inheriting, because I think that's an all-encompassing, even in inheriting how we view, be it mental illness or society, or similar to you, I was a very young age when I was introduced to the mental health community, 22 years old, 21, and I 95% of the time see that as a blessing, because I've been in this community for a long time, and I don't know where the other road would have taken me, but I feel that blessing that I've had 20 years to grow, and that I still have many more years to grow and learn and learn every day. And yeah, thank you for acknowledging. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now in the world, and learning about ourselves and how we react to things, and yeah, we may not like what we learn about ourselves always before we change them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
yeah.
So I want to give you an opportunity to share anything else you wanted to impart with with our Fresno viewers and before we do a checkout?
Well, I'll be happy to. I mean, one of the things that we checked in, and I guess I'm being transparent too, that there's checking in and then there's checking in, right? So when we set out to do a task, and it's really important to before you begin the work or the co-work with people, is to have that time to check in together and really talk about what's the vision we have for what we're doing. So with that, you had shared with me that part of the topic or theme here was organizational wellness and personal accountability, right?
Right.
So, and actually, one of my wellness tools is I developed what I call the 5 C's. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about that in a way that invites you to think about them too, and maybe supports me to see how this tool will go for me today.
Of course.
But I'll give you a little background on it. Is that when I began about 10 years ago at the Copeland Center, prior to that I had been kind of a stakeholder more so of the Copeland Center. I'd run a statewide initiative to train and develop and implement certified peer specialists and get Medicaid to pay for it in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
And as a part of developing the team that would do that, RAP was a key element to it. We built that into the curriculum because my mentor was an advanced facilitator, Jeannie Whitecraft, and she believed strongly that if we were putting peers out there into this transformative environment, that they needed the best tools to stay well in that work. And so the intention was that peer specialists in particular that were walking into an environment that we knew was going to be faced with discrimination, and stigma and myths about them and their capabilities, and that RAP was the tool to give them to have some structure and plan and guide to stay well despite the challenges of that environment. And so in many ways that's kind of my background on how RAP plays a role organizationally. But what started to evolve was people started wanting to talk about doing an organizational RAP or RAP organizations, and what I kind of grappled with around that, and my good colleague and partner BJ North, was that what was happening was that people were the individual was lost in the process, and the conversation was about RAP for an organization was like this structure and these ideas for this structure and idea of an organization. So, for example, a lot of times the conversation would lead people towards like, a trigger is funding, and the action plan is, contact the fundraiser to get us more money, and so there was no, or even worse. I also recognized that what would happen is that people would talk about triggers would be like these what ifs that actually weren't really happening, but what they really were they were early warning signs or signs that things were breaking down, because the thing which the team was calling a trigger was actually based in a story about something that happened 10 years ago at the organization, and it wasn't actually currently happening. It was one of these things like, well, one time this happened in the organization, and that story, wasn't a trigger. It was that story had carried on a life of its own. It wasn't happening anymore. It happened 10 years ago. It became like a symptom of an organization that was stuck in shame, blame, guilt, and gossip. And it was just new people would come on board, and they would hear the stories before they even had any experience there. So that's when I really recognized that, the way RAP works is that we use those plans for ourselves to be a well member of that team and organization, and allow ourselves to ourselves to see how not to get drawn into the rumor and the gossip that actually eats away at the organization, right? That recognizing for me that that's not a wellness tool. That's not when that's happening. It's a trigger when those things are happening at the water cooler, and I need an action plan so that I'm not contributing to that.
Yes.
Right. So it's really about how you develop a rep to be a well part of the team or to be a well part of the organization, right? And how do we create that culture where, as a whole team, we have that common language, right?
Right.
And that we can share that, kind of like what you were saying about at the Copeland Center as facilitators. We create this culture where we check in with the personal responsibility and the support of each other. That wellness comes first, right? That we don't jump right into our agenda.
Right.
And we do that at the Copeland Center as a team now that's grown organizationally. We start off every meeting with the check-in first. And because if I don't know what's going on with you today and where you're at with that and how to support you, that plays a huge role over if we're going to talk about this business item or this task in the organization, and I don't have the context for where you're at in your wellness, and that you take the relationship out of it when you do that, when you just jump into the business. I'm just here for, you reinforce things like, we're just here for a job, we're just here to be human doings, not human beings, when it doesn't become an integral part of the culture to check in on wellness.
Right.
So the 5 C's are kind of what I've developed to be well, and it comes from the basis of, if I'm not that first key concept, if I'm not first coming from a place of hope, then the rest follows. And so the 5 C's for me are really like what I've developed to foster that. And the first C, I'll go over the 5 C's. The 5 C's are for me, it's seeing what's working. It's seeing the support, right? So I need to see what's working in my life. I need to see what's working within my team. I need to see the support. So I need to know what it looks like, right? I need to know what that support is for me.
Right.
I need to see the potential, right? So I have to see, like, what's the best that can happen. And as you may notice, that kind of counters a lot of times where teams or where we go and work, which is like, we plan around what's the worst that can happen, right?
Right.
But it's a powerful thought to really, to know first what's the best that can happen here.
Right.
And we have to be able to see the success. So I need to really be able to vision and see what it looks like when things are going well, when I am successful in what I'm setting out to do. And then I need to see the hopeful action. So I need to tie all that up with what is it I need to bring about? What do I need to do to bring about that hope that I have?
Right.
And so we've actually done this as a team at the Copeland Center, as an organization, made the time at a retreat to really go through the process of sharing with each other, like, seeing what's working. What do I really enjoy about my work? And maybe we could, you can play along and see what that looks like for you. I mean, for me, what I really enjoy about my work is that it reminds me of the work of wellness in my life. Because of what we do and the mission, it's a mission that I would want to have in my life, whether it was my job or not. Right. And I think what I also really enjoy about my work is that it's inclusive of a lot of diverse people. Like, it depends on it. So I think there are 2 things that I would say that I really enjoy. For me, that's seeing what is working, for me. So, but yeah, I wonder what that might look like for you if you were to actually think about, and like, how easy is it to think about what you really enjoy about the work you do and the team that you're on.
So I'll go with the first part. What I really enjoy about the work that I do is being able to give back to people who are going through something similar, if not worse, or the same as what I have gone through. Having been in a lot of their shoes in the past, I love that part of my job. Trying to reduce people's symptoms. I I love that. I thrive off of that. If I can help someone just to feel a little bit better about their day or their minute, where they're at. I love that about the work that I do. I'm working in behavioral health. And so on the team, I'm actually on a new team as of Monday. And so I'll speak on this new team, which is the New Starts Housing. And something I loved about Lucia Aguilar was on Monday when we had our first meeting, she did a check-in. And I was absolutely elated. She did a check-in and she had a book of 3,000 questions, and she didn't ask 3,000, she just asked one. And the question was, what was one of the happiest times? She just opened the book and she shared something personal about herself with that, and the transparency, how much we got to know each other in that hour, the few of us that were on, I think there were 4 or 5 of us on, just made me go, I'm gonna love being on this team. The fact that there was a check-in, the fact that there was transparency, and that it was very positive and that was very safe. And so I those are 2 things that I really love right now about my job. And I like what you said, Matthew, because it almost felt like a bit of manifestation, looking to the future of what is the best outcome. And so, yeah, thank you. I like that. Okay. I'm getting a signal that we need to cut off pretty soon.
Yeah, that's great. So, well, thank you for letting me share, and thanks for playing along. And I don't know how this is experienced on the other end, but I am putting into the chat box my email and an invitation for anyone who's viewing this to let me know who was there and was this helpful, supportive information.
Awesome. Okay.
So, yeah, and so it's in the chat there, and it's mfederici@copelandcenter.com. But yeah, it's very weird for me to not have any gauge on who's there, what they may or may not be getting out of what we're offering here. But again, I appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to send a message of wellness and support my shared experience in it. So.
Yeah, and it's been the same on my end, Matthew. Like I said, this virtual platform has been very new of not having an audience. I'm used to an audience. But yeah. I thank you, sir, and you have a very blessed day, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely, Baltimore. Take care. I look forward to connecting with you further. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, everyone, so that went a little bit longer than I thought. So I'm going to go ahead and see if we've got, do we have Michael Pritchard on?
Let's do Susan's video real quick.
I did. So feel free to email Matthew or myself. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go on to our video of our own Susan Holt with a few words.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great Wellness Wednesday. Much appreciation to Baltimore for leading our efforts in wellness. And he asked me to talk a little bit about my own wrap, and I'm excited to do that. I'm going to keep it short, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to talk about my wrap plan. So 3 things about my wrap plan I want you to know. The first is about how important it is to me that I have a really, really robust set of wellness tools. My tools include things like deep breathing, checking in with myself, checking in with friends and family, trying to have balanced nutrition, regular exercise, taking care of my animals, and hobbies around the house to keep me with fulfillment in my life. The second thing I want to talk to you about my wrap is the importance of really understanding myself. So we talk in wrap about knowing our early warning signs. And for me, I really needed to list those out because they can be very subtle. And I was noticing that I would easily overlook them and then have longer periods where I was starting to feel unwell instead of catching that early and course correcting. So knowing my early warning signs is really, really important. And when I self-reflect, non-judgmentally self-reflecting on how I'm doing, I look through my early warning signs just to see if I'm noticing any of those things, such as recently I had tension in my shoulders. And I then looked at my wellness tools and noticed I really wasn't exercising as much and my nutrition was a little bit off. So I was able to course correct, and I'm really feeling a lot better since I started exercising again at home and a little more mindful of my nutrition. And then the last thing I wanted to talk to you about my WRAP plan, what's been amazing for me is empowering other supporters in my life to be part of my WRAP plan. So family members, good friends, and some coworkers have a deeper understanding of me since I've implemented my WRAP plan. They know what I'm like when I'm well. They know what I look like when I'm breaking down. And really importantly, they know what I need from them. They know how to support me. And that's made all the difference. For me, I draw energy from other people. I know some people do and others don't. Some people draw energy from being alone. I draw energy from the connectedness I feel with other people. But it's got to be connecting with me in the way that I need. And I realized through WRAP that the only way people in my life will know how to support me is if I teach them. And WRAP has really allowed me to have a platform to help coach other people on how to support me when I start to break down or I'm feeling less well, and sometimes when I'm having a crisis. So I have real important supporters at work, at home, and out in my circle of friends. And that's made all the difference. I noticed that WRAP helps me at work in a lot of ways. I feel more productive this last few years since I implemented my WRAP plan, and I'm more excited about the work I do than ever. I'm naturally a pretty positive person, so for me to say that WRAP has really helped me to be even more enthusiastic and excited about our work, I think that's really saying something. So thank you again for listening, and thank you to Baltimore for asking me to join this session. And happy Wellness Wednesday, everyone. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
So that was pretty awesome. There's our Susan Holt. Susan, appreciate it so much, your kind words. And Susan has been an avid supporter of wellness and really walks the walk. And so we are getting ready now to get on with Michael Pritchard.
Go to my Outlook.
And if you hang in there with me, I should be there in 1 second.
You can turn on your camera if you want.
Okay. And there is Michael Pritchard. Hi, Michael. How are you?
Hi, let me pause you real quick. Okay, or mute you. There you go. How you doing, Baltimore? Good to see you.
Doing good, Michael. Appreciate you joining us, and apologies that we're a little bit late. You know, we start getting talking
No
on
worries.
wellness with people, and I think people actually get really excited to start talking about wellness and what's working for them, and so definitely thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I had soap for you. I was going to share some of my wellness activity, fruits of my labor with you, but I couldn't come in today, so that's all right. I'll give it to you at another time.
So for those who don't know that will be watching or are watching right now, when you say you have soap for me,
Sure. I was making soap during like I needed a hobby,
okay.
and I always wanted to do it. I actually wrote an article about this, so a lot of people in the department know. But that was one of my things is soap making, and I had some.
Tell them who he is.
I was giving it away to people around me. So I made way too much for me to ever use, and so I started giving it away to people around me. So anyway, yeah, I had brought some into my coworkers and stuff, and so.
Awesome. So can I have you just introduce yourself and
Sure.
where you're from, where you work at?
Sure. So my name is Michael Pritchard. I am a staff analyst in public behavioral health under Ahmad. I'm on Ahmad's team. And I'm over all the SUD prevention contracts. I've worked in SUD contracts with treatment. I've been with the county 8 years. I worked in child welfare for 3 years, worked at Marjorie Mason Center for a year. Currently, I'm the vice president of the California Consortium of Addiction Programs and Professionals. And so I'm just have a lot of responsibilities between that and work to keep me busy at home during this COVID crisis that we're in. So.
Yeah, definitely. So, Michael, I've had the pleasure of seeing you speak at a graduation a few years back, and you really made an impact on everybody that was there, and just an excellent speaker. So I did ask you to be here today, and one of the things that you were going to talk about was just your own recovery, and I was tying that into how one has to take personal responsibility, or what that can look like, for our own wellness. And you sent me something yesterday which was absolutely amazing, which I'm gonna let you talk about.
Sure. So I don't even know where to go with this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm in long-term recovery. I'm a person in recovery from substance use disorder and mental health issues. Actually, I spent like 20 years recovery from meth addiction, alcohol, and was in and out of rehabs, in and out of our psychiatric facilities. Just a very unwell person for a variety of different reasons. And so when I got clean and sober, I was incarcerated at the state level during that time. And I really was in a personal crisis. I knew I had to take a road toward getting well, or I was not going to make it. A lot of my friends had already died from drug addiction. My dad had passed away from it. It was a real reality for me that if I didn't get well. So I was given some recovery tools with all the programs that I went through, but I really didn't have any spiritual connection at that point. And that's kind of what my focus was when I was incarcerated. During that time, I had kind of it sounds weird, but like I had all the pressures of life fall off of me when I was incarcerated, because I didn't have the relationship stress. I had a cell to sleep in. I wasn't homeless like I was before I was arrested. And so I had time to contemplate and to think, and I didn't have drugs in my system. And I started to exercise, and I eventually realized, like, wow, this is really, really good for my emotional health. And so when I got out and I was on my own, my family had written me off, and I'm like, I'm literally have no income, no job. Like, I was in a crisis situation getting out, but I had a new lease on life and I said, so how do I maintain this? How do I maintain this new lease on life now that I've had this miraculous thing happen in my life? And so I started to contemplate, like, what is it that human beings really need to balance in their life in order to be well, right? Because I would use drugs when I became emotionally compromised. And so, I needed to really insulate and protect my emotional state and the contentment that I was feeling at the time, new in sobriety. And so I realized that it really came down to 5 key areas for me. And it was a focus on physical health. So it was continued exercise. It was, making changes in my diet, in the way that I was eating. When I don't continue those things, like Susan Holt said in her video, I really just kind of like, I get compromised very easy. Like, I start not feeling well. My spiritual life's very important. So like, prayer and devotion and service to others. It's kind of like a key in the recovery community in general, especially, service to others. And my leisure time. And leisure time was something I neglected for a lot of years in recovery, because I was so busy building my life and trying to like catch up, because, my life was kind of like 10 or 12 years behind everyone else's. And as I began to do that, I began to take on a lot of projects, a lot of stress, school, work. And I realized that if I didn't take leisure time and learn to balance this, that I was going to burn out. When I left child welfare, my blood pressure was through the roof. I was like 38 years old. Blood pressure's in the red. I was in decent shape. So it was just not managing life stress. And so learning to take leisure time And then making sure, this is really important. Most of the anxiety that I feel has something to do often with sometimes like unresolved conflicts in my life, whether it be like the relationships in my home or people around me.
Right.
Those can really put me in an emotional tailspin, leaving things unresolved. And so I try to really make sure that my relationships are okay, not in a healthy way, but like setting boundaries around my relationships, but like making sure that like if I've offended somebody, it's that I've apologized on my end to try to do what I can to make it right. I haven't always historically got forgiveness, especially from things in the past. And then those are the primary things. And so Susan had talked about in her video how some people gain energy from being alone. And that's what I feel. I'm one of those people. When I'm in isolation, like in the COVID situation, I really brainstorm on how to better myself and use this as a platform for growth. And I wrote some articles that went out to DBH around that. There's just 100 ways to better yourself when you have time to sit and contemplate and think and really like think like, okay, well, what are my long-term goals? Like, okay, I feel calmer now that I'm working from home, such that I was able to taper off the little bit of the remainder of all the medication that I was on. So blood pressure medicine, which works for me for anxiety, and just be candid, I took a little bit of Wellbutrin. I'm completely off those medications because at home I can like contemplate and practice. I can practice my routine inside of my home bubble much better than I can when I'm spread out all over the place. And so it's been good for me. So for me, learning to balance those 5 areas is really a matter of life and death. I told you that yesterday. Yes. Because if I relapse, there's a high potential that I'm not going to make it because I was on death's door to begin when I got clean and sober. And so, wellness is always a focus of my life. And it's to the degree that I've allowed one of those areas to fall out of balance, I will get emotionally compromised and unwell. And so my formula at the top of the thing that I sent you yesterday was, life balance equals wellness equals contentment. Life imbalance for me equals sickness equals discontentment. It's very simplified, but that's really what it comes down to. My contentment in my life is directly linked to my wellness, which is linked to life balance.
Michael, when I saw that, as soon as I saw that, it's one of my huge beliefs that I learned about myself a few years back was the whole mind, body, and soul. And it's in my RAP plan as an indicator that something's off. Starting to get a stomach ache, starting to get headaches, my neck's starting to hurt. Oh no, do I have COVID and I haven't been around anybody? I can be quite dramatic sometimes, but I know that's a shock to some people who know me. But it's a big sign to me that something else is going on. And I'll have to sit and really evaluate, am I doing too much? Am I, something's going on, and just that balance part. When I saw it put in words, I really liked the way that you had said that.
Yeah, I think having, some people need a lot of people around them. And so I realized that, this is very difficult being isolated for a lot of people. My son's really struggling with this, and I'm trying to help him with his wellness around this issue. But for me, I have my wife at home now. And even when she was like working, she works for the county as well. And so, we check in with each other throughout the day. We were doing that when she was at work. That's helpful. So, she's a huge piece of grace in my life on a daily basis to check into. She knows immediately, like, if I can't always spot something's going on with me, she can spot it. Right. Having those people in your life, to be able to speak into your life and, so. Yeah, I just try to really maintain balance in those 5 areas. And so for me, this is prevention, right? It's relapse prevention for me, is what it is. And these are all preventative measures for me to, if I keep my life manageable and small enough for me to keep those areas in balance, and I don't get out of balance, be overproductive or overambitious in my vocational area, or neglect my exercise and nutrition. If I'm able to stay balanced, I generally stay well and I'm contented. And I need to be well and contented in order to be productive for the community itself.
Right.
In order to be engaged, I need and present for the work that I do for the county or for anybody else. I need to be well. And so it's taken a long time to hone that, and it's changed over time. I've built different routines at different times based on what's going on in my life, trying to keep things in balance. But I always keep my eye on those 5 points.
Love it. So in closing, Michael, what would you say to someone who's watching this today that says, okay, that's great, Baltimore Wellness, Michael, Matthew, but how do I start? What would you say to someone who asked, how do I start to even get on this road?
So what I did, and honestly, I don't like to lend advice without having conversations with people like that, but generally, I started out with, what do I want my life to look like? And first of all, what do I want my life to look like? And, what are the general areas of my life that I feel that I want to make improvements in? And then picking one, because a lot of people want like to be there right now, but these things take a long time to actually build. It takes a long time to build wellness and change into your life. And so like being patient with yourself, during this process, sitting down and figuring out like where I want to be, what areas I need to work on, and then just making small incremental changes will immediately begin to lift your spirits as you begin to act on those small incremental changes. It's like they build on each other. When I first started going to the gym, I was sore every single day. But like a year later, I was a lot better off because I was consistent with small changes to meet my long-term goal in that regard. And I think that works in all categories of people's lives that where they want to make changes.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And we appreciate it and hope to have you back again sometime. Michael, you have a blessed day.
You too.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye. So the great thing is, everyone, I get to take those headphones off. It's hot. Not only are they uncomfortable, but as I could see myself in the camera, I'm self-conscious as it is. I didn't feel they looked very flattering, but that's okay. This isn't about me. So I'm going to go to, we're at the end, by the way, of our presentation. And we are I'm going to close out with this. I hope that you guys enjoyed today. And we had 2 different speakers. Please, if you didn't get a chance to take in everything they said, or if there's something they said and you want to write it down, go back, watch it. The link will be sent out in a bit, so you can watch it over again. And really, if something resonated with you, whether it was something I said or Matthew or Michael or something you saw, take note of it. Take note of it if it just touched your soul. Or Susan, I apologize. Susan as well. Some great things. And if you want to email me, again, we've been doing our wellness drawing. So I have on here, what are taking from today's webinar? I believe there's supposed to be a you in there. What are you taking from today's webinar? Just shoot me an email and let me know what you liked about today, and we've got some gift cards and stuff to give out. And lastly, if you'd be interested in doing a cohort, we've talked about that before, just email me and let me know as well. So our next one is going to be August 12th. That'll be a Wednesday. We'll be doing Wellness Wednesdays every 2 weeks. Thank you. Our hour's up. You have a great and blessed day.